development consultant, and is currently the head of the partnership at Jobberman Nigeria. He has managed the recruitment and onboarding process for various blue chip corporations spanning across multiple industries, ranging from financial services, manufacturers, telecoms, and information technology. He's also a trained sales professional with an MBA from the University of Liverpool. We have the pleasure of having him here with us today. I would, at this point, yield the floor to him as he takes us on with the topic professional development. David, you're welcome. You have the floor. David, can you hear us? Hello, David, can you hear us? Can any other person hear me there? It looks like there's a challenge with David's connection.
I can hear you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, so the problem is probably from David's end. That's what.
Yes, exactly. Exactly, sir.
I'm just going to ask that we all bear with David. I'm sure he's probably trying to sort this out. He's probably trying to change the network. David, are you back? Can you hear us now?
Yes. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, we can hear you now. We can hear you now. Yeah. So you're welcome. You have the floor.
All right. Thank you very much, Mayo, and thank you, everyone. And thank you for this opportunity to be on this platform. I'm here to talk about professional development. I have my presentation slide. I don't know if I could share my screen. Is that okay?
Yes, you can share, please. You can share your screen.
Thank you. So basically, the objectives for this is for us to understand what professional development is and its importance. I'll then talk you through the future of work and what sort of demands that you as a lawyer coming into the workforce, what sort of skill sets would be necessary for you to get your job done. I will then also talk about how we define a career path and set smart career goals. And then I also talk briefly around how to understand basically why upskilling is important and is necessary for career development. I'm hoping that by the time we're done, some of the expectations that you have and you hope to gain from this session, you would have met them during the course of the presentation. So what is professional development? According to the Institute of Business School Leadership, the aim of personal and professional development is to help you manage your learning and growth throughout your career. And why is this important for you? There's a saying that when there's no measurement in place regarding a thing, when you're making progress, you may not know. So as a young lawyer coming into the workforce, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Where do you see yourself in the next 10 years within your career journey? It's important that you begin to look at those objectives and look at how, what sort of skill sets that you would need, and then just begin to, one step at a time, basically tick off those milestones in order for you to reach your desired goal. So the first thing about your professional development cycle is for you to understand that where are your current interests. So know yourself. So what are the values? What are the skills, assets, What are the resources available to you? What sort of personality do you have? Where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself going to? After you've taken stock of where you currently are and who you are, right? The next step would be to explore the possibilities. Understand what sort of information you need to acquire, research on things, find out new topics that are relevant to that particular field. So you may be going into entertainment law, you may be going into information technology law, or business law, financial law. If you're into investment bank, if you have those sort of interests, you need to understand what are the skill sets that I would need as a young lawyer, as a young professional, to get to where the desired organization or the desired position that I would like to reach. The next step would be to then make choices, set goals for yourself, develop a plan. Develop a plan of how you intend to get there. So some of these organizations or some of the requirements that you would need some of them you would need to take on certifications. So you would need to have certain certifications under your belt for you to be able to make that progression. So begin to find out what sort of certifications would I need to achieve that goal. And finally, make it happen. Put your plan in action. Learn along the way. In order to achieve those goals, you need to put on the positive mindset, build the contacts you need, attend the seminars and functions that and great platforms like this that the Institute of Continuous Learning for Lawyers has provided. I think this is one that is even very, very relevant, because then you are working alongside people who can advise you. So the leadership of this group and people within this platform, they can also act as agents to help you, or mentors that can help you grow. I always like to even add within this career development circle is that you need the right mentors in place. Mentors that will then advise you, mentors that will push you, mentors that will guide you into making the right decisions concerning your career journey. Now, the future of work and employment. Now, this is a very, very important aspect, because it's necessary, because as a young lawyer coming into the workforce, you would require additional skills to what you're currently doing just to be able to stay relevant. So for example, we are on this platform, usually 10 years or 5 years ago, this platform will probably be a physical session where I would stand before you and have to go through a presentation. But guess what? Technology has made it, easier, or has made it more convenient for everyone to plug in. Now, this is just one platform, Zoom. There are so many other platforms like this, similar to this. So even having access to the right technology and being flexible enough to use them is also going to is also going to be a differentiator for you as a young lawyer. The fourth industrial revolution is here. And now that's why now this is very important, because in 1784, the first industrial revolution, which was around the mechanization of steam power engine and the weaving loom, that phase and that era has passed. The second was the mass production assembly line, which also speaks to electrical energy and all the other mechanical components that go along with it. The third industrial revolution was around the automation and electronics. That has also passed. We're currently in the fourth industrial revolution, and some people may even argue to say that there's already a fifth one, which is the cyber physical systems, the Internet of Things, basically. Taking your work, a few years ago, we didn't have such things as working from home. They were not very popular, but you see that these things are now part of the norm when it comes to employment. In fact, there are people who, depending on the role that they are being hired for, they would make sure they get some options around remote working and the work from home features. It's very important for their contract to have that, just because they feel that they cannot always be on the road every day. So how is the internet changing the way we perceive work? I think as a young lawyer, it is important that you are open to adapting to new technologies. So, I mean, within the last, would I say 10 years or so, we've seen that there are four categories of young people, or four categories of people in the workforce. There's the baby boomers, there's the Generation Y, there's the Gen Zs, and there are millennials. All four groups of people within the workforce. And that means that as an organization, or as if you're a law firm here, or you have your own chamber, you would then have to deal with people of different mindsets and different ways of thinking. This also brings with it its own form of complexities, because now you're having, new areas in law as well. So you have entertainment, you have financial or fintech law, things that govern, new areas of technology that were not previously existing in the past. Maybe something that had, maybe this is just a branch of from what, intellectual property law, areas that are so new to you. So as a young lawyer, there are different avenues, there are different areas in law that you can actually branch into. And this is also, partly driven by technology. So the more industries that are coming out, the more complex things are becoming. It means that they will probably need, lawyers who are ready to think outside of the box, lawyers who are open to new learnings. Your regular business law or company law would then change, to be able to accommodate these new industries. And why is upskilling important for you as a lawyer? And this has to do with you just keeping an open mind. So in a world that is ready to mark you as inessential, how do you stay relevant in your industry? I think that's a question we need to ask ourselves. Some of you have gone through the university system, you've learned a couple of things, but then you're gradually saying that in the corporate world, in the professional environment, there are new areas that are coming up. And then that then you now begin to say that, okay, how do I position myself for these new opportunities? The key is that you never stop learning. It's more about your skills than your job. Your skill is going to be your new currency. So basically what determines your ability to climb or to grow in any career, or the career that you've chosen, is your skills, the skill sets you hone. According to the World Economic Forum Future of Jobs report, 50% of all employees will need reskilling by 2025 as adoption of technology increases. So there's a constant need to reskill. There's a constant need to learn new things, to go back to your area of specialization. Say, okay, how is technology impacting on my career or my job? I'll give you an example. I have a friend of mine in the real estate sector, and he was telling me about some of the new technologies that have come out. The conventional way of doing things, if you want to view an apartment, you have to come to the site, look at the property, inspect the place before you purchase. But now with the invention of artificial intelligence and technologies like that, they would literally just send you a what do they call this? These virtual reality glasses, right? They will send it to you, and that glasses has been loaded with every parameter of the house. Like literally, you can walk through the house, inspect what you want to inspect without actually visiting the property. So by the time you are wherever it is you are and you've gone through that experience, you will have been able to see that, you can make a decision about the house immediately. So that automatically is changing the way they sell properties. As against trying to get an appointment for someone who is busy working a 9 to 5 to come down to the location to view that property, he can actually, at his own convenience, have a look at that property and make a decision on it. So it means that the system is becoming more efficient. And I can imagine also in the legal space, I know that, for example, there are apps that have been developed to be able to review agreements, draft agreements, very easy. They will just ask you for certain parameters that they need. You impute all those things into the, and then they give you a draft agreement that basically sits well. So how is technology impacting your current occupation? So there's always that need to reskill. Other activities that contribute to professional development, we've talked about continuing education. The next will be participating in professional organizations. So if there are seminars within the Institute for Continuous Learning for the Legal System, even those seminars that have to do with industry specialist events. So I know, for example, in Landmark, they have various events, manufacturing companies come together, hospitality, different segments of industries. They always have conferences. Now you can be doing your job, but every now and then try as much as possible to also be enlightened by going to these events, because at such events they talk about recent trends that are impacting in their industry. So that's how you build a community of people around you who are informed about the skill sets that you or the desired career path within the legal profession that you choose to go into. There's also a need for you to research on new information. So go online, find out what is happening in developed countries, find out how they are currently carrying out the legal profession there, what are the new areas that are coming up, and thank God for the internet, this information is actually out there. Also within the job itself, you should be able to take feedback from your bosses, from those that have gone ahead of you, your supervisors. All those feedbacks also help you as you advance in your career journey. You may want to always, every now and then, have a 360 check-in with your other colleagues and your peers about how you perform. I think those are very, very important things, because they will give you honest feedback around your work, not just from your supervisor, but those that work with you. Also, try and always take on more responsibilities, take on more tasks, because that's where you grow. That's where you learn more. You'll find out that there are people who are currently doing investment banking law, who by reason of chance got into that career space, and now they have become professionals. Some are specialized in oil and gas, right? And you will find out that if you look at how their journey progressed, it may have just been one or two interests that they picked, and then all of a sudden they saw that they have built a lot of competence in those in that aspect of law. The truth is that without keeping an open mind, without being open to learning, you become extinct. So it's important that you have, if there's any task within the organization, you're always willing to take on that, additional responsibilities. Now, for next steps, as a young lawyer coming into the workforce, what are the things that you think you would need to put on? What are the things that you need to stop doing? What are the things you need to continue to do? What are the things that you need to start doing? So these are the three questions that you need to ask yourself. How can I progress by adding maybe one or two additional literature to my collection? How can I, within my weekly routine, add you know, attending these conferences? How am I networking? Who are the people that I know within the legal space that can advise me? So these are the questions that you need to ask yourself. And you know, and also it's great that the MBA is, you know, is a very formidable institution. They have, you know, very professional, very senior lawyers, very senior colleagues that you can easily, you know, leverage and tap into their wealth of knowledge and experience. And I know that these seminars do come up very frequently. So it's also important that you're also part of it and you engage in it. You are immersed in it. You are getting all the insights that you need from these experiences, because all these add to your learning journey. They add to your progression as a lawyer. And then in looking at this, I would like to give a personal example. A few years ago, I went for a conference at Echo Hotel. It was a conference on power and energy, and they had, you know, various stakeholders that had come for that conference. And I was at the entrance of the Echo Hotel. There's where we know where the cars pass and drop off people and pick up people. I was just there, you know, trying to make a phone call, and all of a sudden I saw a man who looked exactly like Mr. Aliko Dangote. He walked up alone and he was standing for a bit and he was pressing his phone as well, trying to make a call. I think he was probably waiting for his driver or something. I looked at him and I wasn't sure who he was. I mean, it struck that he was the one, but I wasn't sure. But you see, then I was quite young then. This was, you know, maybe like 15, 20 years ago, 15 years thereabouts. I was just fresh out of school, trying to figure out my bearing. But I used to attend such conferences. And while I was still trying to contemplate whether he was the one or whether he was not the one, I saw, like, and this was happening within the space of about 30 seconds. I saw about 4 additional people came to meet him, like people he was familiar with. So I think they were all working for him and stuff like that. It was at that point when they came and they, you know, came together and they started greeting him and exchanging compliments, that I realized that I had 30 seconds and I was right before a very important personality that probably could have changed my life. And this may not be, you know, the right context, but I'm just trying to send across a message here. As a young lawyer, it's also important that you have an elevator pitch of how you sell yourself, because it can be a deal breaker for you. It can also be a game changer. I stood there for about 30 seconds with the world's richest black man currently, and I was still trying to identify whether he was the one. I would have taken, you know, that opportunity. Some people say I would have gone to shoot my shot at that point in time, but I didn't take that opportunity. And it was after that event I began to look at myself and say, you know what can I do better? How can I introduce myself better? How can I talk confidently? What can I do when I engage this man that would literally make him call me back for another meeting? That's when the concept of the elevator pitch came in. While researching, I found out there's something called the elevator pitch. It's how you introduce yourself in 10, 15 seconds and leave a lasting impression in the mind of anybody that you're speaking to. So it's important that while you're building your professional journey, you want to create a story that sells who you are. Now, the story is based on your experiences, your wins, your successes, and where you are going to. It can also seem very ambitious too. And it can be anything, right? So you may want to say that, oh, my name is David. I'm a barrister professional with experience or with little experience in. You may not talk about, you know, if it's not so much in intellectual property law. I work for this organization, and I work for these particular chambers, and this is what we've done in the past. The whole idea is for you to get that conversation started, because in the course of you developing yourself, within your professional journey, you get to a point in your career or in your life where you are at the top. You need to be confident enough to engage with these people. People of that, of that status. Some industry professionals call them HNI, high net worth individuals, because in engaging with those people, they can also, basically would I say transactions or dealings with your chambers or with your law firm, or you can literally bring in business opportunities for your organization by having such engagements. So it's important that you are open-minded, you're confident enough to meet up with these people, you have an elevator pitch in place, and learn along the way and be open to feedback. So I think that's all for my presentation. Thank you very much. I don't know if there are, I'm sure there will definitely be questions. So I'll hand over the floor now to Mayowa Olabi.
David, thank you very, very much. Thank you for sharing of yourself, and thank you for the personal experiences that you shared. We're going to go into the question and answer session now. You can ask your questions by typing them into the chat room. So while we do that, I think Amadi Roland has started the questions by sending in 2 questions before now, and I think that she sent it. I don't know whether Amadi is a male or female. Sent it at the beginning of your pitch. I think you spoke about it eventually, but it would be nice for you to answer the question directly. So I'll take the 2 questions that you asked, and then we'll wait for the other questions to come in. The first question is, she has a lot of people that she considers to be mentors, but they're people that she's seen their life and would like to mirror her life around. So the question is, how do you access mentors who are high net worth individuals and who are naturally not accessible, people that you've seen from afar? Is there anything you can share with us on how to access mentors who are seemingly inaccessible? That's the first question. I'll take the second one so that by the time you answer them, we'll have had more questions coming in. The second question is, how do you choose your area of specialization, considering that there are various areas of practice of the law as we speak? As a new wig, how do you determine what should be your area of specialization? You can take those questions now, David. By the time you come back, we'll have mopped up the other questions that I think are coming in now.
Okay. So the first question is, how do you access people who are HNIs, or probably people that you would like to mentor you, but you don't have access to them? So I think the first thing is you have to be very creative. So I always liken every individual as a brand. So see yourself as a brand. How do you, for example, sell yourself, first of all, with the qualities you have, and then also sell your organization or the chambers that you're currently working. Once you're clear on who you are, your personality, find out where those mentors are. So those mentors, they probably go to church or they go to mosque. They go for events. They probably have speaking engagements every now and then. Find out where these people would usually probably even play golf. Are they in Ikoyi club? Okay, yeah, there may be some level of restrictions there, but there must be somewhere that you can find them. I think there's nobody that you really want. If you really, really put your mind to it, you'll be able to find them. If your life depended on it, you will find them. And I would like us to think with that sort of entrepreneurial mindset that if I really want to find this person, they're saying that you are 5 people away from whoever it is that you want to meet. So you just need to find the right 5 people and gradually get closer to that mentor that you're looking out for. I always like to think that they have a social life. They probably hang out during the weekends. Find out where they go to. Yeah, and if you position yourself right, you can actually. I've been at a speaking engagement where the CEO of a company was there, and a lady had pitched her service to that bank. It's a bank, and she didn't get a favorable response. Now, at that event, she raised up her hand and she asked a question to the CEO, who was also on the panel. And he answered the question, and she now said, "Okay, so my name is this. This is what I do, and I'm glad that you like this idea of buying. I've actually pitched it to your organization. I try to get, she spoke about very eloquently about what she had tried to do in the past that didn't work out. And because now this was the CEO right in front of everybody, and I'm not giving you this as a tip for you to put CEOs on the spot, but then she presented it so well that the CEO had to tell her that, you know what, after this event, let's have a chat, and that was how she actually connected with him directly. And that's like the number one decision maker for that financial organization. So my point is, there are different avenues. Look for speaking gigs that these guys will be attending. If they are not people that would regularly come for speaking engagements, look for platforms where you can actually invite them to come and speak. The NBA is also a fantastic platform like that. So find how can you even get this person to come and speak to us on a particular aspect of law, and use that as an opportunity to then, assign them, or probably assign some people to them to mentor. The second is question. I hope that addresses the first question, and I'll move to the second question around how do you determine your area of specialization? On the slide, I talked about your interests, right? So in choosing your career path in the legal profession, what area of interest, and it's very easy, right? What appeals to you the most will determine where you sort of have a bias towards. So for some people, it may be entertainment. Some people, it may be investment banking. Some people may just be the fact that they just like the way people wear suits. Like Mayowa is looking very sharp and smart, and I will say, okay, yeah, I want to be in that field. Maybe it's investment banking, maybe it's oil and gas. I think that's where I want to be in. I was talking to someone today about some of the upcoming organizations, that's the fintechs, and how and I'm saying that I was telling him that you see that the fintechs, because they are aggressively expanding across, some are across Pan Africa, some are going international, they would need legal advisors. And I can imagine you being a lawyer in one of such organizations. You may not have you may have to open up your mind to some of their cultures and the way they do things, right? So you may not necessarily have to always be in your corporate suits and all that, but is basically knowing that that area is where you want to focus on. Seek out those opportunities there. They will definitely run into roadblocks, and they will need your skills and your services. So find out what basically interests you and play towards it. Like I said, attend seminars and conferences. Meet with people who are top voices or subject matter experts in those areas, and build relationship, build friendships with them, build professional networks around them. And I'm sure you'll be able to make a decision as to what area that you want to enter. And sometimes it may just be that you're trying out different things. So you may be in the chambers where every now and then there are different briefs that are coming to you, and then you may just find one that you find interesting. I mean, when you're young, sometimes you're always so fixated about how the career journey is going to look like, but just enjoy that initial part of it, right? So take on as much responsibility as you can, because in doing that, you pick up new skills. You will then find areas that sort of keep you excited and you can easily work on effectively and without little or no supervision. So I'm hoping that I've answered that question as well. I'm happy to take on more questions right now. Mr. Maiwa?
Yeah, thank you very much, David. The questions are coming in. I'm going to take two questions now, which I consider to be similar, but they've been asked in different ways. The first one is from Mercy Frederick, and the second one is from somebody who is called Fumbi. Her surname is not included. So Mercy would like to know, she would like you to give an Maybe I'd like you to give us an example of an elevator pitch. I think you probably answered that question in the course of your presentation, but since the question has been asked, you probably have to
I
ask
can
again.
give my, I can
So,
give
so
personal
the second one, which I think is quite similar, is Fumbi would like to know how you can introduce yourself in a fascinating manner that would leave a lasting impression.
Fantastic. So I'll give you a real life elevator pitch. This is my own personal elevator pitch. So my name is David Umbelu. I'm the head of partnerships at Jobberman. I'm currently working on a project to train 5 million young Nigerians and place 3 million of them in dignified work over the next 5 years. So that is my own personal elevator pitch. And I'm sure for you, you're looking at the numbers and you're trying to say, how can we train 5 million young Nigerians? We are currently doing it. So you want to think about the ambitious goals, and you can also tie it to the vision of your organization and what you're also trying to do. I know that really because of your journey, or every year, I don't know what's it called in the legal aspect, but we have organizations where you run budgets, what we plan to do, what areas of strategic focus, that can also come in. So at my law firm is one of the most formidable or one of the trusted voices in the legal profession around oil and gas. We've handled XYZ number of briefs and we've come out very successful. And just take it there. And you also always don't downplay what your role is as well, what you currently do in that particular big, big organization. And I had a very interesting elevator pitch about a guy that was an admin officer or something like that, working for NASA. He introduced himself by saying that I think my name is John Edward, and I work in an organization that helps take people to the moon. Automatically, you think that he's a rocket scientist because so he works for NASA. You then put on, but then he's an admin officer. But guess what? If the guys who are the astronauts don't have their kits to wear or their suits to wear because the admin officer didn't do his job, then they can't go anywhere. Do you understand? So it's you being able to take the big picture. I mean, that's just a very simple layman way of putting it. But I think it's a very exciting way to also talk about what you do and also show passion while talking about it. You need to be really excited about what you do. And because people also reckon with, they actually connect with passion too. So be passionate about what you're doing and talk about it really, really good. I don't know if that answered the question. I don't know if Fumbi has been able to get some insights as to how to create an elevator pitch. But one thing about the elevator pitch, it's also important that you talk about where you're actually going to, where you see yourself, over the next 5 years in your career journey, in your professional journey. Talk about that very briefly in 10, 15, 20 seconds. You should be done. So that's it.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you very much. As of this moment, we do not have any additional questions. I'll just use the opportunity to say something in case there's still one question. Hopefully, I'm hoping that we could round up at the quarter to the hour. Hopefully, a question will come in, so I'll use this to fill in the gaps. Now, this series is the topic for this particular series is professional development. Your own new weeks. I would share my personal experience with you, and this is what I would normally say to our young colleagues when they come out. The difference between you and that very successful lawyer, seemingly successful lawyer that you see out there, is time. Time. That's the only difference. They are not better than you were, or the potentials that they have isn't different from what you have. So invariably, when you look at them and say, oh, they've achieved all of that, it's time. That's you in 20 years' time. That could be you in 15 years' time. That could be you in 10 years' time. So the difference between you and the question then is how do you make use of your time in such a way that you achieve or probably surpass these people that you look out as mentors in the field? It's simply by taking the right decisions. You're only as good as the kind of experience that you're exposed to. I'm going to say that again. You can only be as good as the kind of experience and work that you're exposed to. The tendency for young lawyers when they come out now is to, and I don't blame them because really everybody wants money, is to look at the financial end of things. You're looking for a place where you'll be paid a lot of money and you want to be comfortable, which is fair. It's not a bad thing in itself. But the truth of the matter is that I always tell our colleagues that you cannot be paid what you're really worth as a professional because you have potential to be a rainmaker to do the work. But between the time you get to that level and now, what you do is what matters. So how do you do this? Yes, money is good. Please don't concentrate on money. It shouldn't be your primary thing. Look for a firm where there is work and exposure, a firm where you would get to learn the work. Back in the day, young lawyers would pay for pupillage because that is the only way that you can do the work. If you've never done election petition and you want to be an election petition lawyer, and you have 15 years of bar experience, if you've not done it before, you can't do it. You can't walk into a room and say, I've been practicing law for 15 years. But if you have not done it before, you don't have the experience. So there's nothing to give. So don't mark time. Don't go into a place where they say, oh, they probably would pay you a lot of money. But if you're not learning anything there or there's no work, there's what you call mark time in military parlance. It's something that is done when you're marching. Mark time, there's a lot of movement, but there's no progress because at that point you're only raising your feet and marching on the same spot. So ensure that you don't mark time. Ensure that wherever you are, do an appraisal of what you've learned within a space of time. Always review yourself. Do a self-assessment. Am I learning here? Am I better than I was when I got here? Can I now do certain things that I could not do before I got here? For those of you who settle for litigation, you would get better with time. So your emphasis should not be on money. I'll tell you what my own personal experience was. In my youth core year, I had a fantastic law firm where I worked. They're still number one in the area of practice where they're practicing, and they were paying good money. But I left for a different law firm because I wanted to do a bit more. They had a specialized IP practice, and even all of their litigation was IP. I realized that I wasn't getting exposed to so many other commercial things that I wanted to do. I wanted to do a bit more of commercial litigation. So I basically took a pay cut when I went to the other firm. So they tried to retain me and they spoke to me about it. They thought I was even going away for something else. But, the managing partner in the place said, okay, how much did they offer you? And I told him how much it was. He said, well, we pay better than that. I'm talking 21 years ago. It was a difference of 5,000 naira. It was a lot. You might think that, 5,000. But back in the day, 5,000 was quite a big deal. But it was important for me, and I didn't regret that decision. So you need to bear that in mind. So I'll go back to the questions now. It looks like a few more questions are coming. Somebody says, I'm not a new week, but I decided to join this webinar. It says, okay, I'm not a new week, but I decided to join this webinar. If you had some missing links in your career due to one reason or the other, how do you fill in the gaps? The questions, it says the question is for you, Mr. Mayo. David, I was going to pass that on to you.
I'll probably be giving from my own experience. So.
I'll take a shot at it, and then you can also share it. So basically, from what I gather, you're saying that you're not a new week and that there are a few gaps in your career. By gaps, I don't know what you mean exactly, but it could only mean I would interpret it to mean that you probably think you shouldn't be you're not where you ought to be now. And that could be, for example, I've seen people who have walked up to me and say that they're 10 years post-call, but they don't feel like they have the output of a 10 years post-call person because there were gaps in their professional life. Maybe they took time out to have a baby or to do something else. Unfortunately, the practice of law is a very jealous lover. A senior lawyer told me once that if you leave the practice of law, no matter how experienced you are, if you leave it for like maybe 3 years, it will leave you for 5 years, because the law is dynamic. It keeps changing. The rules of practice keep changing. The procedure keeps changing. Recently, a small claim was filed against a client of ours, and they sent it to us. We had never done anything like it before. We had to go and quickly buy the rules that apply to these small claims at the magistrate court. It's a novel thing. Now, it's sort of function of I've been practicing law for 21 years. The concept is new. It's new. It's been newly implemented. So we're all going to learn and understand it as it goes. So essentially, to answer your questions, gaps can be filled by investing time in reading up, in looking for cases. And I keep telling people, there's no such thing like, oh, somebody's a specialist. By the time you read up the books, the text, the literature, the case law, you would be able to catch up, especially if it's not something that you don't have an uncanny ability for. For example, if it involves calculation or something that you probably are handicapped with, maybe you'll be able to catch up. But unfortunately, the practice of law is not mathematical. So there's no area of law that you cannot catch up with. And if there's one area of law that you think that you're interested in and that you haven't, you think you are not at par with, you can always seek to work with people and learn from their experiences. David, I don't know whether you want to jump on that as well.
So I think I'd like to just jump off on the last bit of what you said, which is around opening yourself up to more learnings. And it's really important because especially when you've identified that you have some gaps, you may want to take a few courses or take a few basically research material, right? So research new areas within that area where you find that you have a gap. If it's an area that you're also passionately interested in, advancing your career in, I think it's worth it, right? If there's a training that you have to attend or you feel that will be helpful for you to be a part of, if there are communities available for you to be a part of, I don't know how that works within the legal space, but then there are also like professional bodies that you can also align with just to sort of get more insight as to new ways of doing things within that particular area. I think Mayowa has already answered very brilliantly that particular question. When it comes to filling in the gaps, I think it's also great not to stay out of the legal professional field for too long. If at all you have to take a gap. Let it be short within that period. Try and add value in such a way that when they look at your CV or your profile, it tells a story about what you actually want to do within that period of time while you are away. So I think that's basically the addition I would have to that.
Okay, we have one more question, David, and I'm hoping that this will probably be the last question. It looks like a few more questions are coming in, but we'll take this one. This is from Oni Ola. What is the appropriate method to actually discover your area of strength? What is the appropriate method to actually discover your area of strength?
So I think that's why feedback is really important, right? So having 360 feedback. One of the things that will do for you is being able to see the areas where you have strengths, but are probably blind spots to you. So for example, some people are very good with negotiation. Some people are very good with sort of like, addressing dispute resolutions and things like that. They may not know that, maybe because they are probably focusing their attention on so many other things. But as their career, advances, they begin to see that people will come to them naturally to just ask their opinions on certain things, and they will pretty much do justice, to those areas very, very well. I mean, what that would mean would also mean that you would have to probably, spend more time focusing on those your areas of strength, so that you're really good at it and you really excel at it. But yeah, I think the best way for you to find out your areas of strength is basically to seek feedback from your colleagues and also your supervisors.
Okay. Thank you very much, David. There's one more question here. This is from Bola Tito Yusuf. Thank you very much, sir, for your wonderful presentation. My question is, what is your assessment on law firms that engage in all areas of practice? What's your assessment of law firms that engage in all areas of practice?
So we said something right around around the future of work, right? Being able to understand so you may not even blame these law firms, right? It's what brings food to the table, right? So yes, you are big at what you do, time has passed, you're successful in it, but then all of a sudden you realize that there's a need to take on you just realize that certain types of briefs are coming your way, and you know that if you keep passing this on, you'll probably be losing revenue, losing business. You may not want to say, okay, you know what, let's try our hands around new things. And with the process of you trying your hands around new things, you find out that you're picking up, a lot of different other things. So I think it's survival of every law firm or chamber is what is paramount. If the opportunities are coming your way around a particular skill set, and you probably don't have it, or you're probably then thinking about going into it because these are coming, I think it's a business decision. It's a decision that the leadership of the law firm can then determine to either to sway and take on some of these responsibilities or take on these briefs, or to stay in that particular area of focus for them. So now I'm actually just trying to relate my answers or tailor my answers to the legal professional, to the legal profession. But I know that Mayowa would be in a better position to answer such questions.
Thank you very much, David. I was just going to say that. Thank you, David. I was just going to tell you that I was going to jump on that as well. So our question is, what's your assessment of law firms that engage in all areas of practice? In itself, it's not a bad thing. The fact that you ask for an assessment tends to suggest that you think that it's probably a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. What you would find is that most commercial law firms who have been around for a while and tend to develop capacity in various areas of practice. So the mentality is to develop your brand and grow it in such a way that you can describe it as a one-stop shop for everything. So it's not such a bad idea to have a law firm that engages in all areas of the law. The question is, the important thing is that such law firms should invest in capacity and ensure that they have personnel who have the requisite skills to render advice and professional services in the areas of law in which they hold themselves out to be. So, for example, if you look, for example, at the law firms in Nigeria, the big law firms that we now traditionally call the city law firms, and I'm talking about law firms that have close to 100 associates, partners, and fee earners, you find out that they have different units. So invariably, you will have a very strong litigation department. You then go to their corporate commercial department as well. You find out that their partners there are also very strong in what they do. You also find out that law firms will have a very strong IP practice, and it's growing. You find out that law firms now, they do the general litigation, the business recovery and insolvency. What is important is that you find out that their partners do not do everything. The partners don't do everything. They specialize in whatever area of law that they're doing, and they've carved their niche for themselves in such a way that they are actually rated professionals in that area of practice. So it's not a bad thing for a law firm. In fact, that's what most law firms aspire to be, grow their brand to the point where they can be described as a one-stop shop. I hope that answers your question. The other question that you asked is, I don't know whether David is in position to answer this question, but I'll ask it. If he's not interested in taking it, I'll take it. How do you build clientele without violating the rules of professional conduct? For if you want to for example, you want to specialize in corporate and property law. David, is that something you want to take on, or do you recommend that I take it on? Because she's talking about the rules of professional conduct now for lawyers.
So I'm not sure I'll be able to do justice to that question, but I can give it a go.
Yeah, please do.
So how do you build clientele? Like I mentioned, right? Attending some of these networking events and conferences, right? You have these conversations ongoing with these people. They are there for a reason. They are there to also learn like you. They are there to either also exhibit something of interest, or just to basically network as well. So I think that is a very, very safe way, sort of to build your professional network and also build your clientele base. I also think platforms like this as well, speaking engagements and opportunities where mentorships can happen. Those are also platforms. But I think I'll allow Maiwa to take on that question.
Yeah, thank you, David. Thank you very much. That was really, really helpful. The bit that I would then proceed to address is the bit of building yourself without violating the rules of professional conduct. Yeah, I hear you and I understand what you're saying. And you then went on to say that this question is important to you, especially because you might want to specialize in corporate and property law. Now, the easiest way to build yourself is that we have restrictions on advertising. That's where your question is coming from. That's why the rules of professional conduct come into play. But those lines are being broken down over time. And I think that the essence of it was that the concept of the nobility of our practice was such that we are not pepper sellers, we're not traders, we're professionals with the distinguished calling. They didn't want you advertising yourself in an offensive manner. So the essence of it was basically to ensure that we conduct ourselves in a civilized manner. So we now have a situation where people can have websites, and you can also put yourself out there. I was telling young lawyers that the easiest way to get a client is basically by putting in good work. The nature of our work is that if you find a client who walks into your office and says, I'm walking past and I was looking for a lawyer, that kind of client is not a good client. You don't want those kind of clients. Walk-ins don't happen for lawyers. Rarely do you have that because the nature of what we do is that people would ask for recommendations, and they probably have seen you in action, they've seen your work somewhere, or they got a referral from somebody. So essentially, put yourself out there. And how do you put yourself out there? Let people know that this is what you do. A lot of people do a lot of stuff now, and the borderline things that don't offend the rules of criminal conduct. Your friends, your family, people who come around you will see the kind of things you put out. Write articles. If there's an area of law that you're interested in, write an article about it, get it published, put it out there. Thankfully, social media accounts are things that you can use. You don't even need to pay for advertisement or to pay a blog to put your articles out there. There are journals that you could submit your articles to. People would, after a while, begin to recognize your industry and the fact that you have specific knowledge in that area of the law. So essentially, it's the easiest way to put yourself out there. Write a book, write a book. If you think that critique decisions of our courts, regulations and statutes, critique them in such a way that they can be improved. So put all of these things out there. There's so many ways you can do it. And invariably, you'll be shocked that over time, people would recognize you as a specialist in that area of the law and would naturally come towards you. The second part of your question, which was specifically about property, is that a few of our colleagues have been engaged in what you call real estate practice. You begin to carry on as if you were a realtor or an agent, or a commissioned agent. That's what the law frowns about. Not that you cannot practice property law. The people who invest in real estate and realtors, they need lawyers to draft their agreements. You're entitled to your legal fees. Conveyancing is still an area of the law that you can explore if it's something you want to do. The fine line is that you shouldn't hold yourself out as a commissioned agent. That essentially answers that question. Before I take the next question, I'd like to welcome the president of the Nigerian Bar Association, Mr. Y.C. ONSAN, who has found time out of his very busy schedule to join us this afternoon. YC, you're welcome, sir. It's a pleasure to have you at the meeting. At this point, David, it looks like there are no additional questions. People are basically welcoming Mr. President at this point. We have no further questions. It's exactly 3:05. David, I'm trying to see whether there are any additional questions before we close.
I also like to welcome the president as well. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be on this platform. It's one that I'm really excited to be here, and I'm hoping to be a part of more of such sessions. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. So Sarah Iwenwa wants to know how to get into maritime law and other transport and infrastructure practice. Sarah, I think that David has already answered that question, particularly generally, but I'll just quickly respond by saying that it's quite easy. If there's an area of law that you would like to get involved in, basically look for our colleagues who are practicing in that area. If you're not a young lawyer and really you're not looking for employment, you can actually offer your services as an understudy. You could ask them that you would love to do something close to an internship by asking that they allow you work on their briefs. You could sign a non-confidentiality agreement and non-disclosure agreement with such firms so that you can appear with them and look for, there's so many of our senior colleagues who would very happily take you on board and just identify who they are. You know who they are, Google them, look at them online and reach out to them. It's not such a hard thing to do. Or if you're a young lawyer, you could actually one of such firms. There's so many of them around. So some of the questions have been inserted into the chat room. So I'm having to go back and forth to look at that.
So there was a question. I remember there was a question. I can't see it anymore around sort of books that you should look out for. I think there's on personal development. So there's the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People by Steve Covey. There's also Good to Great. I know that that's one book that would really be helpful.
Yeah.
Then there's I mean, there are quite a number of books. So I personally, I listen to books online. So there's an app called script.com. So if you download that app, you can literally listen to books while you're driving to work. Although it comes at a subscription base, but then it's really helpful because most times you spend a lot of time commuting in Lagos. And you find out that you spend that time, just driving or listening. You can actually listen to a book while you are commuting. So there's a question around, I've tried severally with Jobberman to get engaged with a corporation with specialty on corporate law, but has not been lucky to be invited. How can you assist or guide So I think just to answer that question, we at Jobberman, we have, we're working with the Nigerian Bar Association to see how we can increase the number of legal job openings that we have visibility on. So we only advertise jobs that are available to us or we're able to see. I know that there's currently a model that is in place and also working with the Nigerian Bar Association. I know there's an arm of the association that focuses on job placements for young lawyers. So we're currently in discussion to see how we can increase the number of legal job openings that are available on our platform, because I know that currently they are quite limited. So we want to we are open to, actually we use this opportunity to solicit if there are legal job opportunities. We're happy to bring more jobs on board.
All right, thanks, David.
Yeah, so someone has shared the script.
Okay, Sarah says our question has not been answered. Our question has been answered. You're the one who asked the question about getting into a maritime practice. There's a question here from Oluwaseun Ojele. He says not all of us can get into a law firm. What advice would you give us if we were to band it together and set up a law firm? Are there any tips on how we can succeed? That's me paraphrasing. I am an advocate of proper training and pupillage. Now, I assume that when you say not all of us can get into a law firm, you're a new wig and you're thinking that you could set up with a few of your friends at this point in time. I don't think that's a good idea. You might have found a few people who did that and succeeded, but the truth of the matter is that such people are not as exposed as people who actually worked under seniors before they set up. The truth of the matter is that, like I said, what they teach you in law school and what obtains out there in the real world is not the same thing. You would need to learn a few things. When I say you need to learn a few things, it doesn't mean that you need to do this for a very long time, even if it's for a limited period. To understand the nuances of the business, there's the business side of law, there's the ethical side of law, there's the substance of law itself, there's the opportunity to learn how a lawyer conducts himself and how a lawyer's business is run. All of those things you would not get if you were going into partnership with a set of people who have only just gotten out of law school like yourself. So the answer to your question is that that's a no-no. Please, Mr. Jele, I respectfully would love that you don't have to find a big law firm. It could be a one-man practice. And there's so many decent law practices around like that, you would find an opportunity to get into. Do pupillage for at least a year or more before you set out to run business. David, the questions are still here. Somebody's asked me again. I think we've answered the questions and you've also answered them. The person specifically says, how do I get into an ICT law practice? The answer to that is simply what we said to the lady who asked about the maritime law practice as well. There's so many lawyers who are holding out themselves as ICT law practitioners now. Try to identify where they are and offer to work with them, even if they are not looking for lawyers to employ. And you might be lucky, they might be looking for lawyers to employ.
Yeah, so I also even suggest going through that internship, apprenticeship sort of arrangements, right? So, Mayowa, you said something very, very interesting when you started off. You mentioned that at this point in your career, money should not be the main motivator. It should be more of experience. Volunteering, exactly, that's the word. So the role of volunteering is very important, because the truth is, even if the law firm or wherever it is that you're working may not be able to pay you with what you'll be expecting, right? You've built experience that you can put on your CV. and no one can take that experience from you. So I think it's very important that you also look out for volunteering opportunities, especially when you're looking to pivot in your career. So for example, you have an interest in a particular area, and in this, in that, which is different from what you're currently doing. Be open to volunteering. But while volunteering, make sure you give it your best shot, because people will see the passion, they will see the drive, and they can make decisions based on that. And also, you know, based on your passion and your drive, they can just, you know, basically say that in the next few years, the skills that this person needs, he will acquire because of the sort of effort that he's putting into the job.
Yeah, thank you very much, David. Mrs. Pauline Taffa is online as well. She also dropped a few lines encouraging people to volunteer. You know, the truth is that when you volunteer, you'll find that law firms would probably look at your attitude. And if you put in the right attitude, you might just land yourself a proper placement. Thank you very much, Ms. Taffa. It's exactly 3:13 now. I think that we've had a decent session. I'd like to thank the president again for putting together this session in conjunction with the ICLE committee. It's a real hand-holding series, and it's been really, really detailed, extremely useful. I, as a not so young lawyer, have learned a few things here today, and I'm deeply grateful for the privilege to moderate this session. I would like to thank you all for creating time to join us. As you're aware, the series continues. I'd like to encourage you all to continue to participate in all of the other sessions. When I was a much younger lawyer, we did not get this opportunity. So I'd like to thank the president again for all of the innovations that they've put in place to assist young lawyers and new wigs. So we didn't get all of this opportunity in our time. So for this, I'm very grateful. So please, I encourage you to take advantage of these sessions and ensure that you log in for the other sessions that we have. David, before I go, somebody wants you to drop the share the website in case you have it here in the chat room. But in case you don't have it readily accessible, you could share with me. That person should reach out to me privately so that I can share that website. The website that you mentioned about the books.
Okay, that's good. I think someone actually dropped it previously. I'm going to see if I have.
All right. Before we go, I don't know whether the president is there, sir. Mr. President, do you want to say anything to our colleagues, sir? Hello, Mr. President, are you there, sir? Okay, I think he's probably muted. Thank you very much for your time. I would make it a point of duty to join the other sessions going forward, having learned a lot from this particular session. Thank you for your time. I look forward to seeing you all around. Bye now.
Thank you very much, David. Thank you so much, everyone.
She didn't copy the number.
Don't tell me.
I think I just finished. Did you join?
No, where am I?